Well, welcome to the 14th edition of the Royal Ocean Racing Club Time Over Distance series. This week's special guest is the 470 class Olympic silver medalist Luke Patience. Luke shot to fame at the 2012 London Olympic Games, winning the silver medal with Stuart Bithell. Just months before the next Games, 2016 in Rio, Luke Patience's partner, Elliot Willis, was diagnosed with bowel cancer. The team withdrew, but Patience re-qualified with his long-term friend Chris Grube. The pair came an incredible fifth in Rio and have their sights now firmly set on Tokyo next year. Luke joins us from Weymouth, where him and Twiggy have just restarted training for Tokyo after lockdown. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, mate. It's funny having a countdown into this. It felt like a 1 minute start sequence there. got the same kind of nerves out of it.
Well, funny you should say that, because the first slide, you're about... Oh, you're very young. You'll tell us how. But I've noticed you've got a watch on. Was that your first countdown watch? Was it?
Yeah, I bet you that's something like a Mickey Mouse watch or something. Yeah, always keen on time there, obviously.
What was it like growing up in Scotland?
Oh, privileged. I mean, you know, we moved to just next to Loch Lomond to Helensburgh when I was 2.5 years old. And the sailing scene there in Scotland at that time, that was the mecca for sailing. And so my dad was such a keen sailor himself, and moving down there was probably the first domino falling in many that ended up meaning that I'm here today. But Scotland's such a cool place to grow up. It was very rural, you know. We had the hills, the trees, the sea, all in a stone's throw from each other, and it's kind of just one big playground, really. And I'm so lucky, you know, apart from the weather, which for us was normal, but for probably most people listening, it's grim as hell. But I loved it. I'm so pleased that it all happened and that I can say I'm from there.
Yeah, and am I right in saying during lockdown you headed back up to Scotland? That must have been pretty cool to do that.
Aye, yeah, it's right. I mean, I call Scotland home. I live in the south coast now, and this is where I've based myself for training and everything that we do. But yeah, if I get any time, home is, you know, going home to Scotland is where I want to be. And yeah, so the lockdown thing was, you know, obviously strange for all, but for me it was kind of like a going home for 3 months, which is something I haven't done in probably 15 years. I've never been home for that long in a row. So yeah, oh God, I loved it.
Yeah. And a little birdie told me you've been playing the guitar with your dad in the shed and maybe having the odd single malt. Is that true?
Yeah. The odd guitar session, the odd single malt, you know. But yeah, no, he loves it. He's such a big kid as well. So every time I go home, we're doing the things that we did when I was, well, the age in this photo here. It's all been going on for my whole life. So it's amazing. Despite my dad being 67, he keeps me young at heart with his enthusiasm. So I really, really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go on to the next slide, and you might never have won that silver medal, you know, because obviously you were one hell of a jockey. What's your mount called there, Luke?
I think that horse is called Rocky. You know,
you're the right build, though. You're the right build. You're the right build now to be a jump jockey, aren't you?
I know. I might have made a few more pennies in my pocket if I had been a jockey, if I was any good at it. But no, my sister Anna, she used to ride horses, you know, just in the hills behind the house. She had a wee horse on loan, and that's actually a Shetland pony. I'm about 1'5" taller. But yeah, that was a slight detour in the whole proceedings, getting on the horse. Yeah.
And also, I've spotted you've obviously got that. Is that fully carbon, that bike in the bottom right hand corner?
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well?
it will be. Carbon horse as well, Louay. You know, I picked the lightweight horses, you know, just to get that extra bit of speed.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
life's a fruit bowl. You've got to try out a few sports before you settle on.
yeah. Oh, I tried many as well. I actually really enjoyed riding horses, but it wasn't to be. I wasn't very good at it, and I probably got bored pretty quickly. When the horse wasn't going as fast as I wanted it to go, you know, and so yeah, it's that's so funny seeing that photo.
That's a cool. I mean,
it's just brilliant.
Yeah, I'm glad we still got social distancing because you'd probably shouldn't be for saying this, but you know, you make a Shetland pony look big. You know?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
No,
yeah, the genes
man.
I've been given, and my grandparents from the northeast of Scotland were managed to probably reach a height just over 4 feet as well. So we're hobbits of the northern lands.
Right. Brilliant. Well, you did decide on sailing, and this is a shot of you, I guess, very early on in the Opties. Give us a memory from that time, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, so this photo, I think, it's definitely in Weymouth, and in the background is my good friend Dave Evans, and that's us, blasting in on a reach after a race day, and I mean, Oppies for me were just a delight. I really, really missed the boat as well when I I'm going to say grew up. I mean, in age, not in size, but and left the class. But it was just such a ball. I loved the thrill of being in control of a boat on your own, you know, and everything you did was what you decided. And some of the fondest memories at that point is just like this picture sort of shows it. Me and Dave would just be blasting up and down, just having the time of our lives, and spurring each other on and trying to go faster, and the whole thing, and even way back at the start, actually, in Rue Marina, when we'd sail out of the Royal Northern Clyde Yacht Club and down at the marina next to the club, you know, in the old wooden boats that probably cost about £100 at the time, and just splashing around with your friends. Everything we did in Oppies at that stage for me was, I think, what hooked me into sailing, because I just had so much fun, and I was desperate to go faster all the time, and it was only down to me whether that happened or not. Yeah,
and my word, did you progress? And here we've got you at the 420 Worlds at Hayling Island with Adam Wagner, 2003. Bit of a jump, I know, but you know, you're into high performance. Were you totally hooked by then?
Yeah, I was hooked before that. I remember watching the '96 Olympics, and I was 10 years old at that point. I didn't really comprehend what the Olympics is and what it meant, but what I do vividly remember is how it was hook, line, and sinker for me. Just watching all the athletes win and lose. There's something about the emotion that I would see them experience that I kind of just wanted a piece of, you know. And so by 420s here, you know, with Adam, 2003. I think actually Chips Howarth and Mark Russell were our coaches at this event.
Okay.
They had a whole full squad of as young, you know, nippers trying to beat the foreigners that came to essentially what felt like home waters, because it's in the UK. But I remember this regatta was great, actually. We had a car crash of a results board because me and Adam here were rapid in a breeze, which seems to be a theme for me, but we were just on fire. So we were fast and stupid. And so our results were first, 25th, first, 26th, first, 12th, and it was just a total roller coaster. And I can't remember where we finished. I think we were maybe 9th or something like that. You might know.
Well, I think it was 9th. I couldn't make head or tail the results.
Yeah,
because you were like 1st and 20th.
Yeah,
you know,
we won 50% of the races.
Yeah.
You know, and managed to finish, you know, at least 3/4 back in the other 50%. So it could have been. You know, it was one of those ones. If I was just a bit more of a mature tactician, at that stage. It could have been a world championship, but sadly that was one of many lessons that ended up in not a gold medal.
Yeah.
Great fun though.
Yeah, and the next Olympics after this picture, we had the 2004 Athens, but 2008 was Qingdao. Were you aiming to try and get to that games, or was it always going to be London? What were your feelings? Oh God, you were young, I know. But.
Yeah, no. If I'm honest, 2008 for me was not a goal I had. I agree. Too young, too inexperienced, not good enough. So I kind of had the idea that I'd learn as much as I could if I could get involved in the guys that were there at that time, like Graham Viles, Mark Plummer, Nasher and Elliot, Nick and Joe, obviously. I can't remember Draper's in 49ers then, but there was a bunch of really, really good sailors that I was just trying to, like a sponge, try and learn as much as I can off. But I mean, even here in 420, it's such good coaches and such good coaching helping us. And I learned so much from a few guys, and James Grant and Chips Harris and Mark, like I said, and Tom Sant was around a bit as well there. So there was so much to learn. So it was always going to be London. Right. It was always going to be London. Funny story about that, actually, maybe jumping ahead, but I remember in 2005 when London got announced as the venue for the 2012 Olympics.
Cool. We'll go to the next slide, but carry on. Carry on.
Okay. And so basically, I was sailing with Twiggy, Chris Grube, who's my teammate now, and we were in Scotland doing a Costa del West Coast Scotland training camp with Stuart Bithell and Callum MacDonald. Callum MacDonald's a Scottish lad that was a year older than me, and we were in my kitchen, glued to the TV screen as the 2012 Olympic Games is going to be hosted in the city of, and that delay, the excitement, and both London, and I just remember the jubilation between the four of us in my kitchen in Scotland at seeing it was London, which then quickly turned into a frantic sort of almost an argument between the four of us as who's going to be there on the start line. It's going to be me. Bet you it's me. No, and the other guy like, oh no, bet you it's me. It'll be me. So yeah, I was hell bent on London from 2005. Really.
I mean, it's a long road to get to an Olympic Games, and we're not going to go into all of that. We've got 2.5 Olympic Games to get through. So but as you say, a home Olympic Games, that's once in a lifetime. It's not even once in a lifetime. That isn't. I mean, the Olympic Games will not be in London again in my lifetime. Put it that way. I'll be sailing off to Valhalla before it's back in. So I mean, that is all the planets aligning, isn't it, for you?
What do you say? I mean, it's just it's the stars align. Yeah, planets aligning. I can't. It's almost. I'm so lucky that I am this age, and I was at that point in my career, and I'm sure the fact that it was a home games gave an extra ounce of oomph and passion to the whole cause, and I just. It's so fortunate. I can never quite get the words out as to what it meant to be that age and to be at home games. It's just everything. That would have been. Do you know what? That would have been enough for me. Yeah. If that's all it ever was, it would have been. I mean, it's not enough, and I'm desperate to go and win. But the reality is, I look back now, and a few years have passed. To have, my dad push me into a wee oppie before that, and to have access to that. Level of commitment that him and Mum gave me to travel me up and down the country in those early days in Oppies and just get into a position where it could be a goal rather than a dream. Wow, lucky boy. And whoever got to take part in that is it's one to remember, isn't it?
It is one to remember. And before we get flamed on the comments board, Yes, I've made a mistake. I've put silver in the 420 class. It should be 470
Oh,
class.
have you? Oh, yeah. So, you know.
So I'll have to owe Luke a glass of Coca-Cola or something next time I see him. So, but
mate,
here's you and Stuart Bithell. Sorry, Luke.
No, I'm just saying 50 centimetres. It's not that big a difference.
But here you are with Stuart at the 2012 Olympic Games. You know, with it all going on around you, it must have been incredible to be involved in that.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We heard so much in the build up to London. I started the whole Olympic program with Twiggy, my teammate now, and we'd done 4 hard years in the boat where we'd managed to get ourselves to the top 20 status in the world, and kind of just hitting a bit of a wall, a bit of a ceiling. Our trajectory sort of started to plateau, and we were struggling to improve much more, and I think, you know, we were questioning. We tried a few different things, tried a few different coaches, couple of different approaches, and we kind of just weren't really improving more from that. And so Twiggy and I actually took the hard decision to split up at that point. 2009 this is.
That must have been tough as that, because you were good mates.
Yeah.
For 5 years or 6 years or whatever.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah. But the funny thing is as well, I find with a teammate in a 2-man boat, you're always somewhere between a business partner and a great friend. It feels like a weird middle ground between the two. Maybe not for everyone. I have heard of some teammates that basically hate each other. It's just purely business. But I wouldn't say who that is. But I've never had that with my teammates. I've always been great friends. So it's weird. It's like breaking up with a girlfriend or something.
Right.
And so it doesn't feel nice. But nonetheless, the goal had to be the primary focus, and so it wasn't working at that point. We were too young, and our skill sets were quite similar at that point, and so I don't think we challenged each other.
I mean, because Stuart is a little bit older. I know he's still doing absolutely brilliantly. Don't get me wrong. He's still very much on the pace right now. But that combination you thought would work, or rather the.
It was. Do you know what? It was almost by accident we jumped in a boat together. What happened was Stuart had equally not found his feet. He was in a tornado at that point with John Gimson, and was struggling. I think even Stuart that summer had gone to sign on to the Dole and got denied. By the way, yeah. Joking. Yeah, he'd gone. In fact, I think I gave him a lift down to the council offices, if that's where you do that, and walked in trying to get on the Dole, and they rejected him, and he came out like, I can't even get on the Dole. And anyway, Stuart called me a couple of months later because the world champs were coming up, and he said, come on, I'm at a loose end, you're at a loose end now, why don't we just do it? And I had written Stuart off as too heavy. Nothing to do with skill sets or the guy he is. I just had this preconceived idea that it was too heavy for the boat. And he's like, nah, let's just give it a go. So he twisted my arm, and I was like, right, okay, come on, let's just go and give it a whirl. And we went and won a silver medal at the Worlds that year. And neither of us had ever come close to a senior medal at that point. And it was just we just had harmony from day one. Right. And it's kind of by mistake, but we do know why we had harmony now, of course. And we had to build on it, and we had ups and downs leading up to London. But it was the first time that I'd experienced that, and we just had total harmony in the boat, and goodness, how that all ended up, we never thought that would have happened at the start when we were getting on the road to this Worlds in 2009 with a box of Whispers in the back and just kids on tour, you know.
But tell me, this absolutely cracking picture, and thank you very much to the Royal Yachting Association for allowing us into their library. You know, when you are at the home Olympic Games and you've got all the horses up, you are screaming along like that with all the crowd there and the TV and everything else. When that picture's being taken right now, what's going through your brain?
In the photo or in my brain now?
You probably can't remember. Was it? What do you reckon you were thinking about when that was going on?
Get to the next mark clean. Small steps, Louay. It's just small steps. Just get to the next mark clean. I mean, this particular reach is race 2 of the games, and I think we come 5th or something in the first race. You know, a nice solid start. And this race was windy, as you can see, and it was a broad reach. You know, so we could just like light the boat up and go. And I remember vividly that day, and there's so much nerves to settle. And I think one of the things that we were quite good at is turning our nerves into boat speed. It sort of made us work harder, and we were ambitious lads when it came to, can we get the boat into this position, whether it be a boat handling move or clearly a 25 knot reach, when you could argue we're got a good jump on the fleet there. You could have argued we'll take the kite down and just get it nursed there. That wasn't our style at all. It was like, no, let's get a kite up and win this race by a mile. But yeah, little steps. I'm not thinking about the Olympic Games at this stage or anything. I'm get to the bloody reach mark and get downwind where it's all a bit safer. And then you know, anybody who's into sailing knows this photograph, because this was on the front page of, you know, broadsheet newspapers and what have you. Silver medal. And I said to you when we had a chat the other day, you've got to get your head up in the photo, Luke. You know, mate,
if you're gonna be, you know, if you need some PR, some public relations, come on.
Yeah, well, to be fair, if I could do with doing anything, it would be shut up more and don't be in a camera more, you know. But
you weren't thinking of getting to the next mark in that photo. What were you thinking when you realised that you medalled, you got the silver medal?
It was sort of 90% pure elation, joy, relief. I mean, relief is one of the biggest things I think I feel when we have performed. Of course, that passes and you get a sense of achievement, and it's confirmation that you put something very complex together and it worked. You know, that's one of the biggest challenges I find in sailing, is there's so many things to get right. And we, you know, the London Games, we just from day one found flow. We found flow, and we found a really good perspective to approach each day, each race. And Morgan Reeser, our coach, was instrumental in that. I mean, he's just so good at providing information that is useful to the day. And what he's very good at is he sees the body language in you, and he sees who you are that day. So he knows whether to just lift you up a bit or just pull you back to earth a wee bit. So we just found flow the whole week, and we sailed the regatta of our lives. I mean, you've brought up that picture. I mean, we discarded a 6th, which
amazing.
It is, yeah. I mean, I don't know what we thought going into the games, but you never know if you're going to sail the regatta of your life, but we were so determined to make it the cleanest regatta we'd sailed yet, and it was, and it's hard to think a little bit how close we were to winning.
Yeah.
You know, it does sting, regardless of the elation and how wonderful the whole thing. It does sting because we were just, our windward mark statistics were on that regatta beyond anyone else's. If you'd stopped the Olympic Games at the windward marks, we would have won nicely. But that is not the sport, and that's not how it works. Yeah. You got to complete the race, and the Aussies just did it better downwind. Yeah. They were just better than us downwind.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, you know, Belcher and Page, they'd won the World Championship, the 470 World Championship, 3 times already. I mean, they were hot favourites for that medal, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. It was funny though. Thinking back, and we never treated them like world champions, or we refused to acknowledge a pecking order. I mean, you're right, when you objectively speaking and looking at it, you could argue statistically they were always going to win, and they'd been dominant building up to the games, but but we refused, and we gave them one hell of a race for their lives as well. It was a really cool, and we did it very gentlemanly. Like, I have a huge amount of respect for both of them, and Mal obviously is double gold medalist there and as well, and it was one hell of a fight and a really good one, and they were the deserving winners, but we were close.
Right.
We were so close.
Hey, we've got a lovely video that the Royal Yachting Association have let us have. Let's just play that one out as a wrap up from the 2012 Olympic Games.
The London Games was just, I kind of have learned over these years that it can't ever be like that again. It was so life-changing for me, and the most wonderful experience I've ever had.
Excitement really when you start to talk about London. It was my first games, my home games, doing it with a great friend of mine, Luke Patience, and yeah, to come away with a silver medal at that first go was incredible.
There's two moments I really do remember. One was the very first race, because in sailing we do 11 races over the week, so race 1 in London, just remember the release of emotion off the start line. I think I even remember kind of almost whooping and calling out like, we're on boys, here we go, And then halfway through the week we were really in control. We had the yellow bibs on, so we were leading, and I just felt so settled, and I remember thinking, it's on here, let's push on to the end.
Put a hell of a lot of commitment in and hard work. And yeah, that's kind of like the ending point of that little period. So yeah, it's a cool time, and yeah, we're just really fortunate that we managed to pull a medal off.
Well, me and Stuart actually whispered to each other as the national anthem was being played for Australia, and we sort of made a promise, never are we going to listen to this anthem again, But it was still wonderful to look around, standing on the podium at your friends and family, and see the support that was almost entirely, dominated by British flags. That's unique, really unique, and I remember a huge sense of pride.
Yeah, I can see you welling up there, mate, and I think you should be. That's.
Yeah.
You're on your way as well, aren't you? You're on your way then, in terms of yes, you haven't won the gold, and I know you always want to win. But you're on your way, into an amazing career in sailing. But the partnership wasn't to continue. Stuart went to the 49er, didn't he? And he's doing amazingly well in the 49er, qualified for Tokyo as well, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I had such a good time. I still me and Stuart are the best of friends now, but it was just such a pleasure to sail with. He's a wonderfully positive guy. He's hugely uplifting and in the boat, and we just had such a good time together, and it was a pleasure to share it with him. And he's such a great tactician himself, and he loved the 470. And we had, I mean, the 6 months after London as well, we definitely enjoyed the fruits of what comes with that as well. But we didn't know at that point that we were going to stop sailing. But Stuart, he was just sick of dieting. I think he just wanted a new challenge. He worked so hard on being the right physique for that boat, which is not his natural physique. And so he kind of called me a couple of months after London and just said, look, I think I'm going to give the 49er a go. And we'll see what's what, basically. And of course, what do you say? I wanted to keep sailing with him at that point, but equally, you can't force something like that, especially when someone's saying, I can't do another 4 years of this.
Yeah. What's the all-up weight for the crew? 120, 130 kilos?
It's increased. I think now, I mean, you never know your competitors. I think we're around the 130 3.7s to 140 mark in the men's fleet.
Okay.
But you don't really know, and it changes venue to venue, of course.
Okay.
But yeah, he jumped in the 49er, and that was
He
that
did.
basically. It was short, sharp, and wonderful time together.
Yeah, amazing. And in jumps Joe Glanfield with an amazing pedigree coming into the boat.
Yeah.
How did that come about, Luke? I mean, you said what came about with Stuart going into the 49er. How did you get sailing with Joe?
I can't really remember how the initial spark of how that came about. Yeah, genuinely, I can't really remember. I think Joe's been very good at guiding me over the years. He's, from Nipper even till now. He was out coaching us today, for example, in Weymouth with Johnny McGovern. He was helping run the British squad there, but. I think we just got talking because we'd spent a lot of time meeting every couple of months, a bit of mentoring, And he said, like, how do you think we might get on? Or
Okay.
I can't remember. Maybe I said, hey, fancy it? Stuart stopped. But either way, we got talking, and sure enough, it didn't take much conversation before we thought, well, bugger it, let's just try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is 2013. This is Palma, that photo in 2013,
and you did just fine. I mean, a silver for a new team at the Princess Sophia.
Yeah.
And with the Aussies winning again, I mean, that's pretty impressive for a new team.
Yeah, and Joe did really well because he'd been out the boat for a long time at this stage, and he, donned his. Probably blew off a few of the mothballs that were in his harness, brought out of the cupboard and chucked it on, and he did really well. Obviously, sailing fitness is a big thing, and he worked hard to try and get himself sailing fit, and did. I probably needed to as well after a few parties after London, so we were. But yeah, we had immediate kind of. We were at the front of the fleet reasonably well, sort of straight away, and. Yeah, Joe again. Joe's a wonderful feel for a boat. Really pragmatic in his thinking and his approach to events and approaches to each race. So I learned a lot from Joe in that respect. And it was cool. So because I was watching him at the Sydney Olympics when I don't know what age it would have been, but a nipper. I was 12 years old or something, 13.
2000, yeah.
Yeah, and I was in an oppie. Bear in mind, that's one of the really cool things about sailing is how long the careers are. So I'm watching him as an oppie, oppie sailor, having never met him, and a few years later, 13 years later, we're racing together in that same boat, winning medals. So sailing's amazing like that, isn't it?
It is amazing like that, and there's a cracking picture here which beautifully leads us on to the next episode. So.
Oh yeah.
Here are this is the 470 Worlds with you racing with Joe, bottom right, and then top left is Nick Rogers and Elliot Willis.
Yeah.
I mean, what a magnificent stream of talent was going on in 2013. I mean, that's two world-class crews. I think Elliot won Nick and Elliot won the Worlds twice.
Twice, yeah.
Whew,
I know.
And there's the Olympic silver medalist for Joe Glanfield, one of the most wise guys on the circuit. That is a rich vein of talent right there, isn't it?
Yeah, what a pain in the ass for management, in the coaches. Absolute recipe. Yeah, people say, I'd love a real strong squad. No, you wouldn't. You want one good boat and some nippers that are learning. You don't, because the reality is you're just head to head, hoping you're first Brit the whole time. Yeah. Weird, Obviously.
But it must have been intense. I mean, just training must have been intense. And you're very early in the Olympic, schedule or calendar or whatever, or the build-up. It must have been incredibly intense.
Yeah, and probably actually it was harder for Nick and Joe maybe because they'd had so much success together, and such a long time, a long journey with each other that. I'm sure it was stranger for Nick and Joe in this scenario, whereas me and Elliot are kind of the odd ones out because we don't have that history with either of them in that sense. So, but the reality again is you can just treat it like business. We're just there to do a job. You want to win medals, and you've got a job to do. And there's an element of, however weird it might be, the thing that reigns supreme is your drive and your passion to be the best, and that matters more to you at that stage than a relationship perhaps with another teammate. So
but tough choices, eh? It was tough choices.
Yeah, there was no love lost. I mean, you know, it's head to head, isn't it? I'm guessing. Imagine. What have you written there? Is that the Worlds in La Rochelle? Yeah.
Yeah.
So mid race, both rounding together. I hope we were 1-2 there. That'd be cool.
That's. Here you are racing with Elliot Willis.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the pre-event for Rio.
Right.
So how did that come about?
Yeah, so, I mean, the previous picture is all the opposites at that stage. I mean, that, basically, Joe and I had that 2013 season together, and we you know, Joe's got a family, and he's got kids, and it's just I'm assuming, because I don't know yet, it's a completely different prospect to trying to win an Olympic medal while supporting a family. And so one of our biggest challenges was to find financial support and backing so that we were able to do what we needed to do for the program, and equally to put food on the table for Joe's five-a-side football team, you know, that's under the one roof. And we actually got really close. We were just a hair away from signing a contract with Bowmore Whiskey, which has many benefits, as well as their offer to maybe sponsorship, and it all fell through last minute. And I think that was a big influencing factor for Joe, was that it's just he can't justify the whole thing, however strong his desires were. So it kind of came to a natural end because of that, and that's when I picked up the phone to Elliot, because Elliot and Nick Rogers had also stopped. So I kind of felt a bit sheepish picking up the phone to Elliot and saying, look, I know we both sailed with different people last season. I didn't want it to feel like me and him were each other's second choice. It wasn't like that. You don't. It's not how it works. But I was acutely aware that it could have felt like that between us.
That's a tough call to make, isn't it?
Oh, it's not. Yeah, but I don't think neither me or Elliot did feel like that. Again, you bring it back to the goal the whole time. It's like, look, you and I are each other's best chance to go to Rio and win the Olympic Games. Like we are each other's best chance at that. And he was in a coach boat, I think, with the 470 women's squad at that point.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't much chat to have, and we jumped in a boat and got on with it.
Well, you did more than get on with it. Here you are flying.
Yeah.
You know, and this definitely, I'm almost certain this is the pre-event for Rio.
Yeah, that is Rio. Yeah.
And you know, the way the pair of you were going, there were great expectations. Everything was on. You had all the support.
Yeah.
And then it went wrong, and we got a little video which will explain, you know, what went wrong, and we'll just play that now.
Yeah.
Elliot and I had a really good couple of years together in the class, and we were all charging for Rio and regularly on the podium. And I think it was November when Elliot really started to not feel well, and went through a series of tests of all sorts, and diagnosed with bowel cancer. I mean, it's not fair. It's tragic, isn't it? It's a young, fit guy, and it just the world's cruel sometimes, isn't it? I still don't even know what to think of it now, because I just, more than anything else, I hope that he recovers more than anything else, you know. And in the same breath, I hope that whatever I go to do in Rio with Chris, Elliot is part of that. He was part of that. We're finishing things that Elliot and I started together.
And I was actually busy mothing at the time, sailing an international moth and trying to get myself up to speed in that. And that sort of quickly turned to the 470 and heading out to Rio with Luke. So Chris and I are trying to fast track this state of flow that we get to in a boat together, and we have 7 months. Our competitors, some of them are 7 years, 15 years. Elliot's a friend of everyone on the team, and I feel like all I can do is do my best to carry on his legacy in the boat.
I don't know if I know yet how manic it is. I think when this all stops in September, end of August there, and I breathe out, I think I'll realise how full on this period has been.
It's been non-stop since we started in December. It's been quite a journey.
To arrive on the start line of race one, look around, and I expect to be able to say, I know I've worked harder than everyone I'm on the start line with.
I always felt that we were a great team, and I believe that we can go and win a medal.
Rio is immense. It's the most epic venue I've ever sailed at. I think it will bring out a good all-rounder on every class. I think a good all-rounder will win the Olympic Games.
We will medal. If things go really well, I think we could be up and challenging for the top step on the podium.
I can't wait. It's going to be so iconic.
Yeah, a big deal. It's we don't want to just go and get the t-shirt.
I'm doing it for a few reasons, and one of them massively is for Elliot. So whatever happens, and certainly if there's any success in August, like I said, he is wholeheartedly part of that. He's completely part of it, because it never would have happened without him. Yeah, I'll be thinking of him for sure.
Whoa, powerful stuff. I know, Twiggy, you can't hear the audio off that, but you've seen the movie. I mean, wow. I think I did a little bit of research, and I saw that Elliot was part of the Melges 32 World Championship winning team in 2019. So
yeah,
great that he's back racing, but to do all that work to get within striking distance of Rio, and then having to retire before you even got there, that must have been like somebody hitting you with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I feel the whole thing was a mess, through no one's fault, obviously through no one's fault. And it's so hard Elliot's such a phenomenally good sailboat racer. His skill sets are, I've never sailed with someone that's that in tune with a boat and intuitive in what is the right thing to do. He's got this wonderful ability to explain a feeling in a boat and a sensation and convert that into a gear change and go fast, and as well as having a wonderful awareness of the race course. He's just such a good talent, and I learned so much from him, and it's I just heartbroken for him that he didn't get a chance to go and submit that skill set on the Olympic stage. But it's not all about the Olympics. For a start, he's here, he's alive, and he's with us, and he's out winning boat races still. And so he knows how good he is. Hopefully, everyone that raced him knows how good he is. And who knows? Santi Lange won his gold medal in his 50s. Yeah. So you just never say never.
Good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I really feel, and Twiggy was such a gentleman in the whole thing. What an impossibly hard thing to do, to jump in the shoes of someone who's lying on their bed, hoping that they'll be alive in a few months' time. So it's one hell of a moment for Elliot, and God, I don't know what to say. It's just such a shame, and I'm just glad that we got to go and hopefully do part of him proud, and that he could watch it, as I'm sure he hated doing.
Yeah. Well, you did him proud, yourself and Twiggy, straight into the boat together, 4th at the Princess Sophia Regatta in the early part of 2016, the end of March there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to hone in on here was Twiggy. What is he? 6'2", 6'3"?
Nah, and the rest, mate.
Is he?
6'4", yeah.
He's 6'4".
Yeah.
6'4". So, I mean, he's a totally different body shape to anybody that you've sailed with before. How did that change your setup, your performance in the 470?
Yeah, I mean, the 470 is a tweaky wee lass. She's high maintenance. A dream when you get it right, and punishing when you get it wrong, and it's really kind of fine-tuned boat, and you have to find all the nuances of the equipment in relation to your body size. So, Elliot's not the tallest crew in the world, and Twiggy is the tallest crew in the world. Him and Will Ryan are scraping their heads off the clouds, so we had to go into a wee bit of, we felt like we had to go into a wee bit of equipment development in that sort of 7-month sprint to change a few things to suit me and Twiggy and to suit our style. Maybe one of my regrets is we went too far down that rabbit hole, and I kind of, we were actually racing really well together in the boat, and I regret some of the paths, or how far down the paths we went trying to make the boat go faster, when the reality is we put a lot of time into not going that much quicker, and that's one of my big regrets, is we probably should have pulled out of some things earlier and just got on with our teamwork together, and therefore our race decisions and awareness. But you never get everything right, and it's serving us well in this program now. But yeah, Twiggy did a great job. He'd been in a 49er and sailing moths for a long time building up to this. So to get back in a boat with him again after however many years it had been.
And you had to requalify. You passed your exams, and then somebody says, "Oh, you got to take them again." But you made it, didn't you? I mean, I bet you must have. Yes, I bet that was a big one, wasn't it?
Of course it was. You don't get your Team GB tracksuit without punching the air, and it's a wonderful thought knowing that you're going to represent. It's not long lived, because your mind is quickly turned to the job at hand, and quickly after the excitement of being nominated to represent, you're like, well, I better not go and bloody embarrass myself here. Let's go and perform. So that's the worst. But it's changed quickly. But honoured once again, and it was a different. I mean, like I said, this whole campaign in 3.5 years, I'd sailed with 3 different people and 3 different coaches. It was a mess in that sense, and it was not a recipe for gold medals. That's not really where they're born from, is that amount of change. But equally, as we've seen and talked about, it's no one's fault. It's just what happened.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a straight question here. You're in Rio. You're now in the city. You're not down in Weymouth, that far away from London and everything else going on, and not massive, great expectations that you're going to get in that top 3. You're going to medal.
Mm-hmm.
Did you meet any other athletes? Did you have a bit of fun there? I know you like a bit of fun, Luke. Did you? Did you?
Oh, mate, there's never, fun's never far away from me. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, put me on the spot there. I mean, I tell you who was really, really cool. Justin Rose.
Okay.
Yeah, and And he had such a cool attitude to the whole thing, because there was a bit of heat, wasn't there, around the golf being at the game. Some people had said it's ridiculous. Some of the golfers sort of went on strike from the whole thing and said, I'm not playing. And Justin was a breath of fresh air, because I remember we were talking as we walked into the opening ceremony at the start of it, and he was infectious in his excitement for it all. You know, an older guy, I never thought I'd be in Olympic Games. I never thought this would happen to me. How lucky am I? You know, and it was just, it was so nice speaking to him, because he sounded like a young 20-year-old that had just been selected for their first games. Okay. You know, it was that atmosphere from him.
Enthusiastic and
totally.
Yeah, cool.
Such a cool attitude. But what's really nice about the Olympic Village, I find, is that, and Team GB do a great job of this, is they create an atmosphere which loses a pecking order which might be influenced by fame or money or something. You know, so your big names, whoever they are, well, we all know who they are. You know, the big names, you know, the Andy Murrays, Jess Ennis, Chris Hoyes, Bradley Wiggins, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because there's no media and press in the Olympic Village and in the Team GB camp, it's much more humanized and normal, you know, and so people treat you like they treat everyone in the room. There's not this different kind of atmosphere around the famous athletes. So, and I don't know what it's like to be famous, but I bet you they prefer that. You know, I bet you they prefer just shooting the breeze and chatting, and it's all quite normal. So it's a really, really unique atmosphere. And yeah, Team GB do such a good job of making every Olympian feel the same, whether you're an underground sports person like sailing, or whether you're in the front page of the news every week. Yeah.
Well, look, there's a cracking picture of you with Twiggy here. Quite obviously in Rio with the Sugarloaf Mountain behind, but I'm going to pull on to this one. And I reckon you like this photograph, so come on.
A lot of fresh air in between first and second there, isn't there? Yeah, this is race 5 in Rio, and we're inside Guanabara Bay, you know, inside the heads of the whole thing. And yeah, this was a sunset race. We waited all day for wind, as we often did in Rio, and the tide was so strong, like you really needed a good bit of pressure to even race against the tide often. And we'd waited till, so I think this was at 4 o'clock, and the sun sets about 5:30. You know, so the race committee are squeezing this in, and Twiggy and I were just so pumped all day, and we were quite willing to wait. We'll wait as long as it takes, and this was a right-hand track. I remember it so well, and it was a big tidal choice because there was relief from the adverse current, left and right. And through all our notes and through our work that we'd done previously, the right was always a bit safer. Okay. And Sugarloaf Mountain produced a bit of a converging effect in the breeze as well. So I remember we committed. We came off the line and said it's one or the other, you know, and the fleet were doing the same, and we made a real commitment to get onto port first and get out to the right. And we'd had about 9 caffeine chewing gums each at this stage, so we were ready for it. And Twiggy, the absolute warrior, never stopped pumping in this race. He never stopped pumping, and he ended himself. We knew it was only going to be one race, and he buried himself in the pain cave, which enabled me to get the lanes I needed and choose what we need to do tactically. And yeah, a big race win. It was nice. Yeah, it was nice.
Well, you know, without much expectation, here are the stats from Rio. Fantella and Marinic, Croatia beat the Aussies, and I remember we met Fantella, didn't we? But was that the same Star Sailors League that you did?
I've done one commentating and one sailing.
Right,
I think Shime was sailing the one I commentated. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, brilliant result for the Croatians.
Yeah.
Beating a top Australian team. Greeks in third. McNay and Hughes in fourth, and I think Stu McNay's just got a berth for Tokyo. I think. Whatever.
Yeah. Him and Dave are secured for another games.
Yeah, and then Patience and Grube I'm just going to focus in on this. Fifth, I mean, I would have been punching the air, after the preparation, but you didn't start well, did you? 21st.
Yeah. It was that classic thing as well. Race 1 was a wind condition, and I don't mean this for effect. We had never seen that wind condition before. It was a strong, let me get this right, westerly, which came directly off the city. A load of southwests, but this was directly off, a gradient wind, quite kind of cloudy. And yeah, I think a bit of nerves. It was, again, another race where it was vital to be on port off the line, and we didn't have a great start, and so our lanes we just got it wrong. It was just a bit of a mess. And yeah.
But my word, you came back 5, 5, 6, and then that bullet where you won the Sugarloaf Mountainside.
Mm-hmm.
And you must, you were really banging on the door.
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm genuinely proud of what we did in Rio. Sorry, I think we, in some respects, you could argue we overachieved. But that middle day, the UFD and the 20th, we were actually in the bibs. In the top 3 going into that day, and it's so painful now to think about that UFD, because equally. Because we already had a 20th on our scoreboard, it stupidly influenced the second race of the day, where you can see was a 20th, and Twiggy and I were heartbroken that night, because
I bet.
we felt like as a team together we lost it on that. I mean, we did lose it on that day, and my goodness, we weren't far off there. I mean, it was one of those ones that. Yeah, I think back now and it's like, wow, it was so close to being rewriting the history books, really, on getting a team ready for our games.
Well, the book's still open. Still open. We know that, but an incredible effort. I'm going to ask you a direct question here. Here's a cracking picture of you and Twiggy. What did you learn about each other or Twiggy at Rio?
I think, put me on the spot.
Yes.
I think, that's probably on purpose, probably. I think probably the approach to teamwork, I think, is one of the biggest things I learned. Because, and by that I mean, when you're younger, when I was younger anyway, it just all seems so fast and frantic the whole time, and you're young and passionate, and you quickly brush an argument off your shoulders and things like that. And I find as I got a bit older, it was more important to me to really find like real honest harmony with your teammate, but so that you don't have arguments, so that you can work through a problem. And what's really interesting in working with Twiggy, and what we learned at Rio is, and we learned it the hard way a few times in the build up to Rio, is we're such different characters. We're chalk and cheese. And Twiggy taught me how to listen a bit more, talk a bit less. I'm still learning that today, by the way. And I think that was probably the biggest lesson of Rio, is that how vital teamwork is, because it was only teamwork that let us down on that middle day and got that UFD. It was nothing to do with all the equipment development. It was nothing to do with energy levels, not even really our awareness of what was going to, we knew, what we thought was going to work on that middle day did work. We just didn't execute it. And you usually don't execute something because of your teamwork and things. So yeah, Rio was a big lesson in that side of things. It's one of the things we work our hardest on now. Right. In today's program, So yeah.
That's really interesting and very, very honest of you to say that. After Rio, you had a bit of a busman's holiday, didn't you?
Right up your street, this.
Oh man, what a race this is! I've been lucky enough to cover them all. I've never done the race, but I've been there for every single one. And how did it come about that you did an offshore race?
It was actually a wee bit of a mistake. Basically, in 2017, I took a break from 470 sailing. I just exhausted after the everything that happened in the Rio cycle. I wasn't sure at this stage what I wanted to do next, but what I definitely wanted to do was just keep my options open and try and feel my way through it and feel what felt right. So I wanted to try different sailing. I'd actually I was doing a lot of sailing with the DeVosses in Marstrom 32s in Miami. We were doing I can't remember what it's called, the Winter Series or something. And so was Will Ryan. Me and Will have done quite a bit of sailing with the DeVosses and a few other lads, and Garth Ellingham and Brad Ferrand. There's some great guys, and Ian Williams was the guy that helped instigate that for me. So it opened some cool doors for me to go and do this sailing. And I was just about to fly home in a couple of days from Miami, back to UK, and I got a text from Nick Cherry. And he said, what are you up to, mate? Do you want to come to the Caribbean and do it? Are you
serious?
Offshore? Yeah. And I was like,
that's typical of him, isn't it?
Oh man, he's such a good guy. And I said, funny you say that. I'm about 200 miles away. I can get on a plane tomorrow down to the Caribbean quite easily. And he said, brilliant. I'm landing in St. Martin in 2 days. How about you and I take the boat to Antigua and then we'll do this offshore race? So that's how it came about. Cherry hooked me up a treat. And
how long do you go back with Nick Cherry?
Oh, Nick and I are. I think he's a year older than me, maybe a year and a half. But he oppies basically.
Oh wow! Okay,
all the way back. But cause it's funny when you're a kid, 1 year makes a difference, doesn't it? If you're 15 years old or 14, that's like being an alien to each other.
Yeah.
So we weren't directly friends in oppies, other than as much as I tried to. He was better than me, so I tried to copy him and do all that kind of stuff. And then, sure enough, in 420s, we were crossing paths, and he even jumped in a 470 for a while. Mm-hmm. But Nick's just such a good guy. He's one of these guys that his humor just tickles me. The amount of crazy stuff that goes on when you're in Nick Cherry's presence is untold. And I won't tell it either, because we'll get in trouble. But,
well,
anyway, he gave me this great opportunity.
Well, let's have a little look at a video from that 2017 RORC Caribbean 600. And excuse my patchy editing, but you'll get the gist.
Yeah.
So I'm here in Antigua, about to embark on my first offshore long distance race. Why not? I'd like to give it a go, try it, see if I do like it. It's just different. I do 50-minute races twice a day. You know, this has no time limit on it. You just got to get to the finish. And I love the thought of that feat. I'm most looking forward to being a bit sleep deprived, hungry, I'm sure, maybe even cold, who knows, and having to really pull together all your senses and actually still accurately execute your role. Saw a water spout, humpback whales. I'd never seen phosphorescence before at night. What else? A couple of brooches. You know, it was all kicking off in the first 24 hours, you know.
You go fast, and with all the figure eights around all the islands, it's really a challenge.
That was from about 20 minutes into the race 4 days ago. It's just been relentless with Taz.
They sailed the boat very well, and it was really good to be in front of them for all of the race.
Tacking up the shore here at Antigua, and we felt we had the better, and they did a sail change, and we were just playing the shifts up the shore, and we finally passed them after many days.
They finally got us at the end, but it's probably because we're getting a little bit tired.
compete is always fantastic. As I said, I will be back if I'm above the ground next year.
Great stuff. Thank you to Roddy from Aquafilms for that. And I excuse my terrible editing, but you had a blast there, didn't you, Luke?
Do you know, I loved every single minute of it. And, you know, I'm so thankful to, because Eddie Fishwick there, he's the main man that ran that team, you know, and enabled me to come out and experience it. And I was so thankful to him because it was my first ever. I'll remember that race forever, being my first offshore, and also the whole RORC scene was so. I felt so welcomed by it all because I was quite intimidated, you know, in its big boats, and I don't really know anything about it, but the atmosphere is wonderful. It was the best offshore. I haven't done a fast net yet, which will probably be the worst offshore I've ever done. But this was the best offshore I'd ever done, and I totally hooked by it. And I can't wait to do a wee bit more. Yes, I was really impressed by the way the whole thing's run, and Eddie was great in that. So I'll be back for sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to go Luke Patience agent here for the RORC Caribbean 600.
Yeah.
I'm charging a rum and ginger. So if you want Luke on the boat.
Yeah,
I'll negotiate that for you.
Yeah, exactly. Eddie likes a few rum and gingers as well, so I'll get him some too. There was a bunch of great guys in the boat as well. I tell you what is.
There you go. You got your first offer. You got your first offer from John Holt, Scaramouche. You go out with the the kids from the Greg City Academy. There you go.
Oh, great. Well, get me out there.
Wonderful.
It was a great group of guys. I tell you what, a guy called Nick Bubb was on the boat, and he taught me so much as well. I mean, the whole team did, but Nick Bubb, his temperament on a boat, he was just so calm. He'd done a Volvo before in the Team Russia, and I learned a ton of how you approach the problems in the middle of the night and how planned you need to be. So he was a wonderful guy to have on board. I was trying to soak it all up as well.
But seriously, for a moment, Luke, I know you are hell bent. Everything's roads leading to Tokyo, but you've told me you'd like to do the ocean race in the future, wouldn't you?
Yeah. That my when I was younger, I was and was already at that point obsessed with sailing. There was two things that gripped me, which was the Olympic Games and the Whitbread, as it was when I was that age. And I remember a few different races. I remember, obviously the famous Silk Cut, and then Drum. Drum, who lost her keel. Drum lived just outside Rue Marina at the Royal Northern there, and so I spent my young days hearing stories of Drum and everything that happened, and the whole Whitbread and ocean racing gripped me just a wee bit less in the games, which is why it was never pursued at that stage. But I can't wait to embark on that, and I want to. Yeah, I mean, a long-term goal from here is I'd love to lead and run an ocean race team on the ocean race. Okay. So yeah, that's not yet, but I'd love to do that. I've always loved the thought of it.
Okay.
I will do it, Louay. I wouldn't love to. I will do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll see you there.
Yeah. Okay. You're on. And you got another offer here. Phil Nichols says James Neville will take you on Eno.
Oh yeah, I know Eno.
Yeah. There you go. So that's three offers. My agency fee's looking fantastic.
Oh great. Well, yes. Yeah. Your cut of the bottle of whiskey is looking good, mate.
It's not looking bad, is it? It's not looking bad. Well, got to mention some people who live here in Hamble. I know you've been down here a lot, and absolutely, Chris Jones, Louise Machin. I know they helped you out so much down here. Here you are, J80 sailing with Chris Jones, and it's important for you to recharge after an Olympics. And this is the way you seem to do it. It works for me.
Busman's holiday. Well, they say change is as good as a break, don't they? And I'm very keen to be all-rounded in my skills. I don't want to be a 470 skipper and that alone. That's my first love, and that's why I'm doing it. But yeah, I mean, Chris and Louise helped enable me to experience other boats as well, and that's through Twiggy as well. I mean, Twiggy and Chris and Louise.
He's in the picture as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
On the mate.
We're never far apart.
Yeah.
I was open to this world through Chris and Twiggy and Louise, and it's been really cool. And then also Stevie Cowie on Zephyr in the Fast 40. I know they're not racing now, but all those guys were great. And it kind of, I love doing a different sailing. I really like these sort of, I would call them slower boats upwind, which I might get blasted for, but it is a bit, the tactics are different, and you've got to be well timed, and everything has to be in advance, and you can't muscle the boat around the track. So yeah, it's great fun sailing with, and Chris and Lee's have got their J111 as well, which I jump on when we've got time. So it's good fun. The Solent's a hell of a place to race, isn't it? With the banks, the tide,
It is, and keelboats are a lot more unforgiving. If you can chuck a couple of tacks in on a 470, you're not going to probably lose too much VMG. Put 2 tacks in on a big keelboat.
I know, and probably Chris, bless him, Chris Jones has allowed me to make those mistakes on his boat a few times, which thanks Chris and Louise for that. You got to learn the hard way, I suppose, sometimes.
Well, we got a sort of a little surprise for you here. So here's you fully arced up with Twiggy, and I asked Twiggy some really nasty questions. And we got a little short video of Twiggy answering them, which. So here we go. I'll just play this. But here's some nasty questions about you.
Hi Louay. Hi Luke. We just finished a day's training here in Weymouth. Our first after lockdown. You can probably tell by my red nose and crazy hair. But Luke, this might come as a bit of a surprise to you, but Louay has asked me to answer a few questions about you. And they're pretty to the point, I'm not going to lie. So, the first up is, what do I most like about you? Well, I'd say the thing I like most is probably that you just have a serious energy and a spark for life. And that real sort of aura of confidence that really comes out when we're racing more than anything. But you have this sort of confidence which is quite infectious and as a teammate. It's hard not to kind of catch on to that. So that's probably the thing I like most about you. Also, you put a huge amount of energy into everything you do. You're a real fighter, and also you this means that you put up a real sort of scrap on the race course. We fight for every place. Whether it's 25 knots or it's 5 knots, every place counts, whatever event it is. So they're the things that I most like about you. Although there's many. Louay also asked me, and this is quite to the point as well, is what I dislike about you and your personality. As you know, we're quite different people. And so I say this smiling, and as you know, it's true as well, I think, is you get bored quite easily, and you don't really like a set routine on you probably last a week on a routine and then you get bored of it and you have to do something else. But that's a good thing in a way, because we kind of think of new and inventive ways to train, and that just makes us better at sailing the boat. So I'm not going to go too much into the dislikes. There's not that many, to be honest, and I prefer to go on to the next question, which is what makes us different. So I've said this already, but we are very different people, almost opposites. If you look at our personalities. Luke is outwardly confident and sociable. Now, as a person, anyone that knows me knows me as a probably quite a reserved person, and I get most of my energy from within. So, Luke likes to kind of go out for a beer after sailing with some friends, and he really energizes in that way. Whereas I prefer to lock myself in a dark room and watch a movie and have a sleep. Normally because I'm so knackered and my arms feel like they're being pulled out of the sockets, but that's another matter. So Luke is very intuitive as a sailor, and he's very organic. He doesn't like every day to be the same. As I'm very much more by the book, and I like to have things a bit more organized, sort of, maybe even months in advance. Whereas Luke will kind of keep things much later, and just to keep his options open more than anything. But I think any of our personality traits might be good at one time, and so what we do really well as a team and together is we do really well is we manage ourselves to get the desired outcome, whatever that may be. Whatever that is, basically. So I think our relationship as a whole is based on sort of a long friendship. Luke was my best man at my wedding, and we've been through a lot together in terms of our sort of apprenticeship in the sport, and we grew up together racing the 470, and so we kind of know each other through and through, and where our personalities kind of might cause friction in some relationships and some teams, we kind of know that everything each other does is based on best intentions to win in Tokyo, and so I'm sure Luke will expand on this point. But I wish you both all the best, and good luck. Cheers.
Well, he said some nice things about you for sure, and it's obvious when you see the pair of you together that you're not just teammates, you're mates. I have to say. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, Twiggy's a total gentleman, and he really is a great teammate. And as he pointed out there, how different we are. Some nice words from him. We got to a stage where we just understand how each other works so well, which is so very different. And he's the best man in his wedding thing was good fun. Trying to think of all. I think I've spent more time with Twiggy than he has with his wife. So who is lovely, and their son. What's their boy called?
A bear. So they got a lovely wee lad who's just getting his hand in a mirror. Actually, he's been out with Daddy, and he's been holding the tiller and refusing to let Twiggy steer. So like me, he's basically got two sons, Louay. He's got me and the bear.
He has to look after the kids, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
thanks, Twigs.
Tokyo. So it's not happening this summer, but it's due to happen next summer, and it's looking like a red hot fleet in the 470.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it's hopefully happening next summer. But the 470 class has just gone on this journey since London with the kinetics that you can put through the boat. There's been a huge amount of, I suppose you could say, innovation of how we physically sail the boat, and we are squeezing out more speed than and more pumping and rocking, and it's because of a rule that we're allowed to do that. And it's turned into a really different beast. Like, the challenge is very different, and they've you know, as the 3 Olympics have gone by in my career, they've shortened the fleet sizes, or lessened the fleet sizes, whatever the word is. But I think London was 27 boats, Rio was a bit less, and then Tokyo will be 19. So you kind of have to adapt your skill sets all the time, and what's right and appropriate to approach these games. So yeah, there's, I mean, and because of this kinetics as well, it's brought younger guys into the mix that perhaps might not have been there had there not been so much kinetics involved, because historically the 470 class is full of old salty sea dogs that have been in this equipment development kind of cycle for many years, and they just get everything honed to within a mil of where it should be, and now we're muscling boats around the course more than we ever did. So the dynamics are slightly different, and it's so hard now to be consistent, I think.
And for you on the helm, does that mean you have to be more physical?
Much more, yeah. And Twiggy now is as fit as our windsurfers in our team. Like Tom Squires, who's going to represent in Tokyo. You know, Twiggy is a total physical weapon now. I'm sure he could probably enter a triathlon or something, but he can't run and he can't swim, so he'd do pretty bad. But he's just so unbelievably fit. And he is Twiggy's our engine. Like, our boat speed comes from his skill sets and technique at the front of the boat, and he's really good at it. Like I said, that race 5 in Rio, he enables me to be able to make decisions around the race course. Yeah, it's a weird old game it's turned into, and you just got to get on the train or you'll get left behind.
Right. Okay. Well, Luke, that's all we got time for this week. Thank you so much for sharing the joy and the pain of the last 2 Olympic campaigns. And I'm sure everybody watching will wish you and Twiggy fair winds for Tokyo. A last few words from you, Luke.
Oh, I'm sure I've said enough, haven't I? But no, I honestly, it's you know, these times have been pretty unique and hard for everyone, haven't they? And I think for me and Twiggy at the Olympic Games next year, I just hope it happens. If nothing else as well, you know, they call it the greatest show on earth, and it is. And I think it'd be a wonderful way to unite a few nations and unite the world after what's been a pretty hard time. So Twiggy and I are heads down gunning for it. You know, he's keeping me nice and grounded, as he's got such a good way of doing. So I'm loving the fact it's been postponed. It gives me another year to try and get as squeaky clean with Twiggy as possible, and we see it as a total blessing for us. And I think we're better for it, if I'm perfectly honest. And I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, I mean, there's so many people to thank, isn't there? There are too many to mention that are involved, and there's a very close-knit core circle. But, you know, Johnny and Morgan, who coaches, are just wonderful, and Louise and Chris, and then we've got a wide body of supporters. So the whole thing is you're talking to me, but there's about 30 people that are involved in whatever we go on to do next year. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's been fun chatting to you, mate, about some of the old times.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if I'm going past Weymouth, I see you out there, I'll be honking my horn.
Yeah, I can tell you. Yeah.
I can tell you, but you know, it's been fantastic. And Luke, this is an opportunity for us to tell the viewers who'll be on next week's RORC Time Over Distance. And you alluded to liking a bit of offshore racing in the future, and this guy's done 2 Whitbread, done a Whitbread and a Volvo, but he's very famous because he's the only sailor that has ever won the Vendée Globe 2 times, and that man is Michel Desjoyeux, and he will be with us next Friday. So we're going to play you out with a cracking video from Transworld Sport. Thank you very much for this. about Luke Patience and Chris Grube. Thank you very much for watching. See you same time, same place next week.
Cheers.
I was so curious what it would feel like to represent your country.
Each race is very different. You'd never have two races the same.
I much prefer the pressure and the thought that it's now or never.
You're always aiming for that sort of perfection in sport. I don't think you ever quite reach it.
At the time it felt all business and here we are, but now I realise how unique it all was. I've got photos of me in boats from sort of the age of 3, onwards. I kind of always been in and around boats, but for me as a hobby as it started, I was about 7 years old. And my dad kind of just pushed me into it with a few of my classmates and things like that. So yeah, a long time ago now.
I was about 10 years old when I first started. My dad and I used to go every weekend to our local club in North Wales, so Bowel Sailing Club is where I first started.
Well, I'm a water baby, so as soon as we've got time off, I'm always usually flying home to Scotland, to the west coast where my folks live. I love surfing, I love spearfishing, getting under there, windsurfing, I love all that, so I'm can't get me out of the water, even on my days off really.
The real turning point for me was watching the '96 and 2000 Olympics, and realising that that's kind of the pinnacle of the sport, and watching those guys, Johnny Merrick, Ian Walker in the 470 was kind of what excited me the most about the 470 class, and I wanted to emulate that and do the best I could within the sport as well.
What I absolutely remember is the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. By now I was a reasonable way into my junior programme in the sport. Just started competing abroad. I very much remember watching that games and saying to my mum and dad, that's me. It was the hook, and I was like, that is all I want to do.
We started together in 2004, and we were relatively young. I just turned 20, I think Luke was 19. The challenge, training together, and also, we were sort of the underdogs within the British team as well. And so our learning curve was huge. So, that first sort of 4 years together was massive.
Sailing it's unbelievably hard challenge to perfect because our engine is invisible. The wind is invisible. The seas are forever changing. Every tiny cloud or bit of land, or you name it, temperature difference, the whole thing changes. So I think what keeps me coming back is you never, ever, ever do the perfect race.
The thing that really keeps me going is that sort of strive for perfection, the perfect tack, the perfect, the way that you pump the boat, the way that you trim the sails, you can always be better at it.
The feeling of the brief moment when you've got the boat, everything's flowing, and you've got the perfect pitch in the hull, and you surf a tiny wee wave, and you and your teammate are perfectly in sync, and it's just that brief snapshot when everything's perfect. That for me is just such a cool feeling. Rio was a turbulent time. My teammate Elliot Willis, 8 months out, was diagnosed with bowel cancer.
We'd basically grown up in the 470 sailing together against Elliot, and so we both knew him really well, and for one of your friends to come down with that it was a bit of a shock to the system in the first place. And then obviously, Luke really needed a partner for the games. And it wasn't an easy decision to be able to sort of take that on, because obviously you're you're stepping into someone's shoes who's going through a really hard time. It was quite a hard thing to do and not feel guilty about taking that spot as well.
It's not what you're given, it's how you deal with it. And so I was really proud of how the team operated post Elliot's diagnosis.
It was hard, and it was a very short amount of time to come from a 49er back into a 470 again and be, you know, race ready for Olympic Games.
Yeah, I mean, when I think back now, like, me and Chris, my Twiggy, my teammate now, I mean, we were close. Like, we were not far off bringing home a medal, which would have been one hell of a story. And I was just trying to finish a project that Elliot and I started. That's where my headspace was, is me and Twiggy are going on to try and finish something that Elliot and I started, which for me felt a nice way to think about it, you know? Right, got our lunch, got our clothes. I think we're good to go. Right. So apparently I'm driving.
You know, for us to sort of be at our best, it's trying to be able to focus on what we're doing as well as enjoying the moment, I think, isn't it, Luke?
Yeah, yeah. We don't have to talk about that, you're right. Enjoying the moment, fully agree. God, I mean, like, it's such a rare thing to say you're an Olympic athlete. It's such a rare thing to have experienced it. Yeah, you have to enjoy it. No one wins having a miserable time. I've seen many people not win having a good time, but you never see a miserable person winning, so I think you're bang on. Yeah, exactly, yeah. I feel part of something so unbelievably cool, you know, and they call it the greatest show on earth. I think it is the greatest show on earth. And I'm so proud and privileged to be part of that, that for me what that injects is a bit more sort of excitement and we talk a lot about raising or lowering our arousal levels appropriately to get fired up for the day. And for me, that whole bigger thing is an ingredient of raising the arousal levels in a nice manner, you know, getting your fight and ready to go out into your arena.
The hard part for me is being away from home. When we have heavy stretches of training away from home, because obviously I've got a family and wife and kids, so I enjoy the moment and I enjoy the training and like what I do. Obviously it comes with a bit of a heart wrench as well, that you're kind of missing out on things at home.
470, best boat in the world. You can take my word for it. It's so challenging because you're a two-man boat, so you're sailing with someone else, which is a complex skill in itself. There's 3 sails, so trimming all those 3 sails right and getting flow in the boat. It's a really, really wee boat with lots of control lines, so it's dead technical. You know, it's like a Formula 1 car in water.
You know, one person doing the steering, the other person doing the pedals. Both of you need to be at the top of your game for the boat to be going quickly through the water. Conditions in Tokyo can be quite varied. So if it's light winds and offshore wind, then it can be flat water. If it's onshore wind and windy, generally you get this huge swell coming in. You know, when we get to games time, if we get some windy days onshore, it's going to be pretty exciting to watch, I think.
Going back for Olympics is quite scary. You know when you get in your final flight and you think this is it now, and there's not another that's it. You know, you're not getting another chance. This isn't a training camp you're flying out for. It is very different. Anyone tells you it's not, it's lying. They're kidding themselves. It's very different. And I think embracing that is the best thing you can do. You know, I think it's like the whole thing, if you're trying to hide from the fact that you're going out to do something pretty big, I don't think it's healthy. I think just accepting, right lads, here we go. This is it.
We've worked this hard for it, and we know that all we need to do is just execute exactly what we've done in training.
Everything we do is about being the best, not about being good.
This time there's more teams in the hunt than there's ever been for an Olympic Games before, and so, you know, making sure that we're on the top of our game and we do everything we can is going to make the biggest difference in the end.
If everything's just a wee bit better each day, I have full faith that we'll get to the start line and be the hardest boat to beat in the world.